Welcome to another Sapphic Lit author pop-up. Today we have Ann Terpstra. Ann, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am great, thank you. We're going to talk about your book, Beyond Any Experience. Can you tell us a little about the book?
Yeah, it's a novel that follows Olivia, who's a widow struggling to recover from the sudden loss of her wife while also being a single parent to their son. When a new woman comes into her life and a romance develops, Olivia is kind of forced to face the grief that she's been carrying but not really dealing with
Uh,
and decide if a second chance at love is worth the risk.
nice. All right. Well, I know she has a complex history with several different experiences. And why did you choose a character like that for a romance?
As a reader and a writer, I'm really drawn to grounded, realistic characters. Like those are my favorites, especially when they have circumstances that may not be my circumstances, but they feel relatable. So that's when I can really sink into a book. Those are the kind of characters that draw me in. And so that's what I wanted to create in my novel as well. Um, it doesn't always have to be a mirror sometimes. It can be very relatable, even if you haven't had their experience, but it's that like realistic quality that I really like. And in Olivia's case, she's a grieving widow, which of course is difficult. She's a parent to a neurodiverse child. She's a middle-aged woman, so like a lot of us Gen Xers were in that sandwich generation, between our kids
Right.
and our parents.
Sure.
And she's also lost a parent somewhat recently. So there's a lot going on with her when the book opens. And I thought it would be interesting to explore how someone with all those complex circumstances could learn to kind of make room for love again. Like, what would that look like?
Yeah.
To prioritize, in some ways, her own happiness after a few years of just not having the space to even think about that.
So if you pick an experience for her that you've not yourself experienced, how do you go about researching that?
Um, it is a good amount of research. I fortunately have not lost my wife. We've been together 25 years. But she is a physician, my wife, and we talk about death more than a lot of couples would. This seems weird, but it
Yeah,
isn't.
get it.
And so it got me thinking like, because we're always, I think like most couples, like if something happens to me, you should find someone new. Like we want that for our spouse to like not be miserable their whole lives without us. And I got to thinking about like what would that actually look like? Like,
Mm.
you know what I mean? Because it's one thing to be like, yeah, 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 or no, I won't bother or whatever, but really thinking about how you might process that led to me to some kind of interesting just directions to go with Olivia, research that I did, and kind of building on that. So that's one experience I haven't had that I did
Mm.
rely on research from to draw
Right.
from for Olivia. Yeah.
And I know you said that the son in the book is autistic. How did you land on that?
I have an autistic child, young adult now actually, but who's also physically disabled. So I have some personal experience in that world as a parent. It's not a point of view you see a lot, especially in fiction. I feel like it does show up in memoir and nonfiction a little more.
Sure.
And so I think society has a lot of preconceptions about what neurodiversity is, what it is to parent someone with any disability,
Right.
how in some ways like society and the ableism in society actually makes it much harder than the disability itself. And so I wanted to kind of create that empathy and draw that picture for readers and again that relatability where even if you haven't been through parenting a neurodiverse child, if you have parented a child, even being the auntie or something like that, it kind of reframes that a little bit, and I hope gives people a little different window in that experience that they might not have gotten another way. But that for that character with Olivia's son, like that's a lived experience that I have, and not all of my life obviously is in that book, but I've spent a lot of time with other parents with kids with disabilities, in different, therapy centers, that kind of thing. So there was kind of a wide um, expands for me to draw on in that area. Not all directly mine, but certainly things I've had more intimate contact with. So,
Right. Gives it more depth and makes it more real. I'm excited to read it. It goes so quick here. So can you tell us how to find your books?
my books are available widely. There are ebooks and paperbacks, and you can find them if they're not in your independent bookstore, they'll be happy to order them for you. Of course, the Amazons of the world, the Apple books, all those kinds
Sure.
of things. And my publisher is Nine Star Press, and so you can also buy directly from them if you'd like to support a small business. I always suggest that, or if you like paperbacks, I love our independent bookstores here in Chicago. So if you've got one you really like, that's a good way to get your hands on it as well.
That's great. Well, thank you. This was fun. I appreciate you taking the time.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Bye-bye.
Bye.